Hey, this is Jonathan Gilliam. It's about time to start the show, and it's a Monday, so I'm going to give you your tasking. But since it's Monday, that's when the bad bosses always give you the most work. So I'm going to double down on what I'm going to task you with. One, and the easiest one, is I want you to add me on social media. JGilliam_seal on Twitter and Jonathan T. Gilliam on just about everything else that you can find. Including connectzing.com. If you haven't joined that, go join it. Still getting worked out. The bugs are getting worked out, but it's a platform that is going to be perfect for you. Now, the other thing that I want you to do is I want you to look and research where rallies are going to happen in and around where you live. Back the Blue rallies, freedom rallies, any type of rally like that that has to do with patriotic stuff. I want you to find it. And I want you to go to it. That's what I want you to do. And it is, listen, we should be supporting the police. There's no doubt about it. But you need to get off your couch and you need to go out and be with like-minded people. Trust me, and I'll talk about this in the show. This is something that needs to happen now. And let's start the show. This is Jonathan Gilliam back on the Experts Podcast. The truth has arrived, and it's Monday, sort of, kind of. Is it really Mondays anymore? I don't know. I'm sure there are people going back to work or that are at work. Maybe life is normal for you, but I just don't see life as normal now. I don't know about you. And it's getting tough to stay in this grind of not being able to do the things that I want to do all the time. And, we try to find hobbies right now, but idiot governors like Cuomo might shut those hobbies down. You want to go do things like you used to, like work out at a gym. Part of working out in a gym is not just exercise, and it feels good to leave your home and go work out. And those things are just not like they used to be. And I think it's weighing heavily on people. I think people are getting close to their breaking point. And along with that, all this political strife that's happening, all the lies in media, all the chaos that's going on around the country, I think it's just starting to get to people. I think they're really getting to a point where they're starting to break down. And I think one of the ways that you can keep from that is what I mentioned at the beginning of the show, is if you find a rally that's going on and go there. Just make sure it's not a Black Lives Matter rally, communist rally, or some type of Antifa rally. You don't want to go to one of those. Anything with a black fist up in the air that looks like something that you would have seen in Germany or somewhere placed back in World War II. Don't go to that. Okay. Could be a red fist as well. Any of those resist type fists in the air, don't go there. Has nothing to do with taking care of black people or white people or mending the fences between the police and the inner city. It has nothing to do with that. Those are communist rallies. Okay. So don't go there. But if you do see something like a Back the Blue, or I don't know if you have a conservative candidate that you like that may be having something, I don't think that's going to happen. But if it does, go to those. And so I spoke at a rally that was for Back the Blue, support police, and I spoke there on Saturday. I can play that speech for you here in a minute in case you want. It's very short. But the tragedy about that whole thing was twofold. Okay, I'm going to cover the first one, which was the fact that Ted Nugent was supposed to come there and play the national anthem. It was billed as the biggest law enforcement support rally in the country. Supposedly there's going to be 6,000 people there. I think there's probably 2,000-3,000 people that were there, and a lot of people didn't show up because when Ted Nugent, and I'm going to tell you the story about how he didn't just get told not to show up. He showed up on a private plane, and they landed. He and a congressman from Louisiana, and they were told if they got off the plane, they were going to be arrested or quarantined for 14 days. Even though in New York, the law says that this Cuomo law says that you have 24 hours to come here and do business and then leave and not be quarantined. But that didn't matter. That didn't matter to the Nassau County executive, Lauren Curran, who's the idiot that you may remember. I don't know if you saw this, where she was on the news doing one of these COVID press conferences that everybody does. They don't do a thing for anyone. But she was talking about telling people how they should pick up and carry their tennis balls. Yeah, that freaking genius. Okay. She's the Nassau County executive. She put out a press release about it. And then, as it turns out, what actually happened, this is the whole gist of it, okay? They knew Ted Nugent showing up was going to bring a massive crowd to support law enforcement. And that's not what they want, right? They will allow massive protests and riots in support of the communist Black Lives Matter. All these people are Democrats, by the way, that prevented this. So not only did they tell Ted Nugent and the congressman that they weren't welcome here and that they would either be arrested or quarantined for 14 days, and had law enforcement meet them and get on the plane. They didn't even get off the plane. Not only did that happen, and there's reasons why, and I'll read what she said, why they blocked him from coming here. They also refused to give permits for a stage, right? And so they end up having to back up trucks and have a sound system. And they did everything they could to stop the event from happening, but the event still went off. But there was other groups in there. Law Enforcement Today is a online publication. I don't really know anything about them. I hear they're a money grab, for advertising and stuff. And basically that's what it is. I don't know anything about them, but I do know that they pulled out of the thing, and I don't get that. And all the people who write for them, all the detectives stuff, they didn't show up. They made public statements saying that they wouldn't be there because Ted Nugent wasn't going to be allowed to play. And I told Ted, I'm going to go there and I'm going to speak and I'm going to lay down the law. And that's what I did. But why wouldn't you show up and still support law enforcement and voice? They could have all got up there and voiced their disappointment. And Peter King was right in there in the mix with them. Peter King was there and was evidently partially responsible for not allowing the congressman to show up here. And as it turns out, what they actually did was they didn't just tell Ted that he shouldn't come here and the congressman. They actually put pressure on the PBA, the Police Benevolence Association, who their executives are corrupt too. And the PBA ended up releasing an official statement as well, saying that they didn't support or welcome Ted Nugent. And Ted Nugent, like I said, has done more for cops in New York alone than most people ever will. But the PBA dirtbag that runs it had to side with the politicians. They say it was because of contracts and this and that. They want to make, but it's all because of politics. That's all it is. It's all politics. These union people, it doesn't matter if it's a police union or a teachers union. They're all led by either spineless individuals or it's led by communists. And so this Laura Curran, the balls lady, she puts out a statement. She put out several statements. One of them, though, on Twitter said, extremely disappointed that Ted Nugent, a man with a history of hate-filled speech that, this is my side note, speech that up until just recently was either in fun or jest, but now, this is going to come back to bite the left as well. I mean, it's killed comedy. It's like watching a comedy skit now is like watching a cat tiptoe through glass. Anyway, she goes on to say, she's disappointed that he is invited to attend Saturday's rally in Nassau. Our police department is the finest in the country, and our officers deserve admiration in a setting that we can all be proud of. Now, sure made it sound like she was making it more about the cops. She then goes on to say in another tweet, there is no room for bigotry or bias of any kind in Nassau County, not from Ted Nugent or anyone else. Meanwhile, they openly allow rap concerts all the time. They don't outlaw anybody from coming here and having a rap concert. They're politicians by nature, which means they're biased. I'm sure that it just crushed him to know that Trump supporters were showing up there. She had an official statement, though, and it was put in the paper accusing him of promoting pedophilia. I mean, just ridiculously stupid stuff. I mean, enough stuff that a lawsuit could probably be pushed forward. And ridiculous stuff. And Cuomo, along with her, Cuomo goes and murders elderly people. And then Cuomo and her together, they murder the First Amendment and people's ability to support the president, or to support, the president as well, but support law enforcement. So what happened on Saturday was despicable. And it's nothing that is new. I mean, this stuff is happening all over the place, but I personally had not seen this level to where it just went to this level. And of course, it doesn't get reported in the news as that. There's no news anymore. There's no journalism that's going to show that literally henchmen, law enforcement henchmen that represent, these authorities that have gone above and beyond anything they were hired to do. And these law enforcement henchmen get on a plane and tell somebody, because one of the politicians doesn't like what he sang about, or that he voiced opinions because he didn't like Obama, or Democrats in general, they're going to tell him he can't get off the plane or he's going to get arrested, and then put out these press releases that are as nasty as they can be. Totally. I know people use this term a lot, but that is un-American. And it is, listen, they're communist. The Democrat Party is a communist party. And if you don't believe it, you should be looking at this. I don't care if you're liberal or not. You should be looking at this and realizing that this is what's happening. And if you think it's not going to happen to you, I don't know how many times I have to say this. It doesn't matter if you're liberal or a gay activist or, a Black Lives Matter believer, not a part of the group, not a part of that hierarchy where they got people at the top of Black Lives Matter that think just like the Japanese in World War II, that they think anybody that's not of their race is of literally not an evolved human species. You can look it up. It's nothing I'm making up. One of the other leaders or founders of Black Lives Matter went to jail for sexually assaulting a minor. So if somebody follows Black Lives Matter stupidly, which so many are, and you think it's not going to come back to haunt you if you get these communists in office, you're wrong. You're the first people they're going to go after. So they didn't let him off the plane. Saturday rolls around. They still have it. I'm sure there wasn't that many people. There was some of the people could have shown up, but that didn't show up. We're going to be there. Still a good crowd. It's still a pretty big crowd. But I'm telling you, incredible people that were there. A lot of cops, a lot of firefighters, a lot of just people in general. Happy to be there to support law enforcement and to express their concern for what's happening in this country. That was the other thing. That's what that's why at the beginning of the show I said you need to find these rallies and go. I don't care if it's support the freedom or don't wear a mask or one of these boat rallies or for Trump or what. It doesn't matter if it's for Trump or Back to Blue. Go there, be amongst like-minded people who see that something's going wrong in this country. You have to do this. After November, I know this sounds like an alarmist. Again, I'm talking to liberals and conservatives. After November, if they win the House and the Senate, or just the House, but if they win the House and the Senate and the presidency, you will never see this country the way it has been in giving you the freedom to do and say what you want. I don't understand how you don't realize this. I don't understand how the liberals don't get it and realize the potential. I mean, it's happening right now with the cancel culture where they're hurting, they're getting injured. And I don't get how conservatives don't see the sense of urgency. Look at what happened to Ted Nugent. That's because they didn't like his music and because he's a patriot, because he's a conservative. Imagine what's going to happen on a grand scale. And here's the other thing. Again, I'll play this in the speech. Cops better realize your blue shirts are going to turn brown. Your brown shirts were the henchmen for the Nazis in World War II before the SS came along. You better realize that's what police are going to be used for. What happened to Ted, you're going to be used for all that. That's why you're not able to stop the riots. That's why you're not able to get out there and do what you need to do to counter a literally an insurgency against this country to change the form of government. I don't understand how people don't see the urgency in this. Now, the other thing that really bothered me about this Back the Blue rally, right? And this was planned from the get-go by even the law enforcement today who pulled out of the thing and all the other people that it helped get this thing going, was that it was basically a rally for Republican candidates. And I didn't like that at all. Now, Lee Zeldin, I met him. He got up and spoke. I got to tell you, I am glad Lee Zeldin was there. The speech he gave was not Lee Zeldin centered. Peter King was there as well, but he's a bullshit artist. And he was partially involved with the Ted Nugent thing. And also, he's gone down the deep end against the Second Amendment in support of red flag laws and all this other nonsense. So he's going to be gone anyway. And the only reason he was even in is because the Republican Party on Long Island is like the mob. If you're not one of their in people, you're not ever going to get in politics here. And once you get in, I don't really even think it matters how many people vote for them. They're going to be whoever they choose. That's who's going to get in there. So Lee Zeldin gets up and gives an amazing speech. And, this is a guy who's still in the reserves, in the Army Reserves. And he was active duty Army. And now he's a congressman and still serving in the reserves. I mean, you can't get any more of exactly who should be in Washington, D.C. than that. And he's incredible at speaking. He knows how to nail those points and not go on forever and ever. Hopefully I'll have him on this show sometime. But he got up, and to tell you the truth, if they would have said Lee Zeldin and a couple of people are going to be here speaking, I would have been, that's fine. But then you have the PBA president getting up, talking, promoting stuff. I mean, first of all, he's slid so far. I don't know if so far left. He just probably left, but he's definitely has no spine. And he gets up there acting like none of this stuff happened. You have all these different candidates that are running for different things getting up there and speaking, talking about law enforcement, and this guy's running for this, and I'm running for this, and I don't agree with it. Go have your own rally. If we're going to rally for cops, then you need to have a few speakers, and listen to me, because I've been to several of these. If you're an organizer of these things, listen to me. You need to have a few speakers. And they need to be people who speak to the crowd and get people fired up. Don't just throw, it's not a political rally. Don't throw 15, 20 people up there who are all going to say basically the same thing at a tone like this. Oh man, we're in bad shape. Come on. Listen, that's not what people show up for. They're showing up first and foremost to support law enforcement. Secondly, if you're one of these organizers, you need to realize that this is the moment when people need to start getting together and having dialogue and meeting each other, because when it hits the fan, this may be the only time these people get together, because they're not like the left. And so I was very disappointed in that. I have to say, very disappointed. I got to get up there and speak. I worked my way up there. I basically begged and pleaded to get a chance to get up there, and trying to get in contact with the guy who organized it, who wouldn't return anybody's calls to get me up there. I finally get there. I get up there, and I got to say what needed to be said in 2 minutes. And then when I got off the stage, the people were saying, why weren't we hearing that the whole time? You know, why we're here to get people fired up and to meet each other and to support the police. What was this? Everybody was like, was this a political rally? It seemed like a rally for the GOP. So anyway, I'll play my speech. It's only 2 minutes long, so hold on. Let me play it right now.
God bless every single one of you that are out here today. This is not the silent majority. I'm sick and tired of hearing people talk about the silent majority and how they're proud to be the sleeping giant. A sleeping giant never won a war. A sleeping giant is what communism throughout history has walked all over. I will say, and I've said it before, there is a war going on right now. Louis Gohmert, one of the greatest congressmen that I know, told me, and he's absolutely correct, that there's already a civil war. We just haven't gone to guns yet. You are living in a war zone. Do you realize that? In the beginning, the Word was with God, and the Word was God. The Word is truth, and the Constitution is not a piece of paper. It is Word. It is the Word that allows you to be here. It is the Word that I swore an oath to support and defend against all enemies, foreign, say it with me, foreign and domestic. We are at war. Do you realize that? I'm going to say one more thing, and this is to all the law enforcement officers out there. You better wake up, because your blue shirts are going to turn to brown shirts if you continue to do the work for de Blasio and Cuomo. If you all don't start standing up for the people will stop standing for you. And you will become the henchman. You will become the henchman for the communists who are in power. My name is Jonathan.
Okay, I just said my name is Jonathan Gilliam. So this is what I'm saying now. But I was one of the last people to speak, and I got up there, and I wanted to make sure that everybody realized, one, why we were there, and two, if you were a cop, because I'm furious about what happened to Ted Nugent. And I would love to have heard a story about a cop. And listen, I know you guys have jobs, men and women, you all have jobs. I know you have jobs. I know you want pensions. But you gotta understand something, okay? You are going to die eventually. We will all die. 100% of all humans that were ever born will die. And when you're dying and you're laying on your deathbed, your pension won't matter. And whether or not you found another career won't matter. Or whether you had to work a few extra years in another police department because you transferred over there. You need to realize that what is happening now, that when you're laying on your deathbed, you may have to face the very fact that you jacked this world up because you didn't stand up to these corrupt leftist communist authorities. Now, you may be a liberal saying, I can't believe he's saying that. I can't believe that he's saying that these law enforcement officers should walk away from a job because they don't want to do what they're told by the governor or the Nassau County executive. Well, listen, we sign up and swear an oath. Because I was in law enforcement, we swear an oath to support and defend the Constitution against all enemies, foreign and domestic. If you're too stupid to realize that there's not a domestic enemy trying to destroy the very freedoms that you have, I don't have time for you. You don't need to be listening to this show, because this show is about true freedom and true patriotism, not the GOP or the DNC. I don't give a crap about either one of them. Well, if I run for office, yeah, I'd probably have to run with the GOP. You know why? Because it's very rare that an independent gets in. But I'll tell you something, I'd probably only be a one-term congressman or senator, because I would go up there and I would not stand for what's happening. So you have to realize as law enforcement that you are going to be the people. This is historical. The people that don't do anything, they just sit there and they just say, well, maybe it'll work its way out, or this is my job. I've got to do my job. I got to have a job. I can't give up my job. You're the one that ends up beating up all the activists and killing people and arresting them and taking them to internment camps or re-education camps. It's not like they go out and hire a completely new group of people. They end up using the people that are afraid to lose their job. And you compromise everything. And you think that I'm just sitting here overreacting? You mark my words. I know when I die that I'm going to be able to lay my head wherever it is, on the battlefield or on my pillow, and I'm going to know that I did what was right. And when I meet my Creator, He's going to look at me and say, you could have done a lot better. And I'll say, man, yes, sir. And I can't thank you enough for allowing me to be here, because I'm a complete failure. And He's going to look at me and say, yep, but your heart was in the right place. Can you say that? Can you say that? Don't bullshit yourself. Can you say that? And I hope that haunts you. I hope every day you go to work, and if you're in law enforcement, every day you go to work, every day you lay your head on your pillow. If you have kids, every day you make eye contact with your kids. I hope it just eats away inside of you. You don't know if you go to work, if you're going to die tomorrow or in 3 days because of work. But you will know if you die in 20 years and you became that henchman and you beat up and were forced to kill children or do whatever, put people and let them rot in these re-education camps, which is historically repeated over and over where this type of stuff happens. You're going to have to go to sleep, and you're going to have to lay there, and when you're on your deathbed, you're going to have to realize that you are the reason why that happened, because you and all these other cops wouldn't get together and say, no, we serve the people. But see, this is one of the reasons why I got out of the FBI. Nobody understands their role in the world anymore, right? The people have completely signed over their responsibility as a citizenry, and they just think that, listen, those people have to take care of us, or the government's going to help me out, or I'm always going to have a job. It's not like that. The reality is not like that. We're lucky it's been like that as long as it has. But the reason why government overreaches is because it's full of narcissists and psychopaths who don't understand the Constitution, and this country is full of citizens, and really the world is full of people that have, I can only speak to this country really, but this country is full of citizens that have forgotten their role. Law enforcement and government and their overreach doesn't come from, like with cops, it doesn't necessarily come from, jacked up authority hungry dudes who are wanting to go out there and bust heads. It comes from the fact that the community at large, citizens overall, stopped policing their own communities. They stopped raising good kids. They stopped staying married. They stop going to church. And so what do you end up having? Horrible, rotten kids. Narcissism it's out of control. People literally let their phones raise their children. And so what does that create? It creates a narcissist. Look at TikTok. Don't go look at TikTok. Don't even put that on your phone. But just in general, think about TikTok. Think about Instagram and Facebook and Twitter. It's all about me. Notice me. This is my opinion. I'm right. It doesn't matter. People think it doesn't matter whether or not they've ever been experienced that, what they're talking about, or educated. It's their opinion, so it must be right. Oh, look at me. I'm so beautiful. Yet it took them 50 pictures to get one right. And they post it and people say, oh my gosh, you're so beautiful. And they just eat that up. I'm telling you, that is why things the way they are. That's why you have cops going outside of the really what their job exists for. Cops aren't the ones who are supposed to come in and ensure that society works. They're there to enforce the law and to basically save people, respond to emergency incidents, and eliminate threats and enforce the law. But all of that stuff wouldn't even be an issue if we hadn't lost control of our communities. It's not a cop's job to come in and get emotionally involved in the community so that they can change the community and bring it back. We're going to make the community great again. That's not a cop's job. Now, on the other hand, it's not a police officer's job to wake up and then face the community with an aggressive type. I know that cops work and exist in horrible environments, ones that people have no clue how bad it is. Okay, I get that. But still, when you're dealing with people, you should always be ready for things to go bad. And you don't have to face people with this unemotional type of attitude. And then here's the other thing. Which I've seen a lot of lately. Cops get a complaint by one person about another person. That other person may be completely emotionally disturbed. They'll show up to the person that got complained on and tell them, you have to stop this. Even if there's not a law against it, they'll say, you got to stop it. And that's not the way their job is supposed to work. If one person A is complaining on person B, law enforcement should say, is what person A is complaining about even a crime? And if it's not, sorry. You tell the people that, hey, you work it out. Your neighbors or your grown people, you work it out. But that's not what they do. Why? Because the way citizens and the government and the perception of what law enforcement job is has been so twisted that everybody has this misconstrued perception that they can complain to the cops and the cops are going to go over there and make that person stop. And police actually get involved in that. See, this is I could talk on this all day, but this is where the major problems exist. Okay. Now, the reason I even got into this after what I was talking about earlier is that these are the things that should be discussed at these law enforcement rallies. People should be getting together with cops showing up there, civilians showing up there, having these discussions. Not listen to who's running for representative in this district or state, whatever. That's not why you have these rallies, so that those GOP people can come up there and take advantage of the crowd. Get those people out of there. Don't even let them get on the stage. If you have an acting congressman that is a representative of the people and you want to have them up there, by all means, have them up there. But this is not campaign season. I mean, it is campaign season, but we're in a whole different ball game right now. Cops are dying. You want to have your own rallies, GOP, have your own rallies. Have the support law enforcement GOP rally. But don't come hijacking these things for your benefit. I'm sorry things are the way they are, but maybe if you guys got out a little bit more, or maybe if you were a little bit louder against the communists, we wouldn't even be worrying about who's running. We'd just be voting Republican. But see, that's the problem. You want to make noise, go to Washington, D.C., lead some rallies, lead some protests against communists. You listen, you want to run for something? Lead one of those. That's the way you do it. When the thing's about to get over with, grab 100, 200 people and say, let's march with bullhorns. I'm going to lead you because I'm running in your district. It's not that difficult to come up with these out-of-the-box ways of thinking in this critical time. Now, let's take a break real quick, and then we're going to come back, and I'm going to go through the news because there's a ton of stuff in here that is in all Drudge Report and all these other things. And I've got to talk about this thing about the Reagan Foundation telling Trump that they want him to stop using images of Reagan in his presidential campaign. That was blowing my mind until I looked at their website, and we'll be right back, and I'll explain this stuff to you. We'll be right back. Now, I know you guys hear me talk about my books all the time on this show, but I have to tell you, if you have not ordered Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, I mean, right now is the time when you should be doing that. Honestly, look around. Is anything getting safer in this country? I don't think so. And you need to start taking responsibility for your safety. You may not have law enforcement showing up at your place. So now is the time when you need to assess your threats. Now, the way you do that, the way you assess your threats, is you read Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival, and you apply what I teach you in that book. The first half of the book is set up to show you how attackers look at you, why they would attack, who would attack, when it would happen, where it would happen, and how it would be carried out. You divide your life into sectors, and basically, it's not rocket science. You look at yourself from their point of view. I just show you how they do it. The second half of the book shows you how to take what you've learned and then build better defenses, awareness, plans of action, and strategies to mitigate these threats of attack. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. There's 2 workbooks that go with it that you can order after that and actually apply it. Workbook number 1 is the Threat Assessment Workbook, and workbook number 2 is the Defense Assessment Workbook. So they go right along with the book. The first one is like the first half of Sheep No More. The second one is like the second half. And then, because I just didn't think that was enough for you to secure your home, I came up with a children's book with Danielle Kreiner, who did the illustration of it. We put safety, communication, and awareness lessons all in the pictures. It's called The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. And why is it a parent's book for children? Because you go to teamlittlebigs.com and get the lesson plans, hand the book of pictures to your child, and then you teach them 2 to 8 on awareness, communication, and safety. Sheep No More, The Art of Awareness and Attack Survival. It's 2 workbooks, and The Adventures of Team Little Bigs, a parent's book for children. This is how you secure your homeland. And let's start the show. I did that whole commercial in one take. That's pretty darn good. Considering I used to have tremendous time doing commercials on Hannity's show and David Webb and Andrew Wilkow. I mean, I spent years learning on those shows how to do live reads. And that one, I even coordinated the music. So that's, I'm giving myself a pat on the back there if you don't realize that. Now, I want to go through the headlines real quick. And I want you to, you're going to get blown away by this. I'm just going to blow through these headlines, okay? Because they all basically point to the same thing, that the world's gone crazy and communism is taking over. And listen, liberals, I hope you're listening to this, okay? This show, as I always say, isn't about black or white or, gay or straight or men and women or liberal and conservative. I don't care about any of that stuff unless the activists get in the way of freedom, and if you all start to go down an avenue that is just crazy time, okay? Liberalism and this whole hatred of Trump has gotten so far out of control that people they don't even think rationally anymore. They will literally end relationships with people and say things that are absolutely stupid. I've had military people who understand what AR means in AR-15, and they still use the word assault rifle. Now, I'm not going to tell you what it means. I want you to go look it up because I hate that. I hate on Twitter and people are like, oh, yeah, well, what do you mean? What does it mean then? Well, like one of my teachers at Bryant High School used to tell us, Mr. Paulus, I believe it was his name, go look it up. You're an adult, go look it up. If you're listening to this show, you're probably an adult. Go look it up. So, but I have even veterans who should know, and they buy into what the media says, the narrative. Assault rifle. It's not assault rifle, okay? Now, you have to realize if you're a liberal that a great vast majority of you, and I'm not saying this to be funny, have been literally brainwashed and hypnotized into thinking that you're following the answer, but you are not. You are following a lie that is going to lead you towards communism, and I challenge you to look. Maybe you're a young person that's, in your teens or whatever, that somehow listen to this, or maybe you're a parent. I challenge you, go and look up communism, the history of communism, where it's actually been imposed, or socialism. And I'm not talking about Denmark. Don't use Denmark as an example. Denmark is a capitalist country, okay? They have socialist programs, but it's a capitalist country, and it's only a country of 8 million people. You look at Stalin, you look at China, you look at Vietnam, look at these places and see how it never actually gets to the utopia of communism. That's the reality. It's never going to get there. The closest you'll ever get to utopia is the United States, where you're free to live how you want to live. But there will never be a utopia, which communism preaches, where there's a classless system and no state. I think you can clearly see in the world now and forever since Cain and Abel or Adam and Eve, people or human beings are going to do what they want. They're going to sin and they're going to cause problems. The best and closest way that you can get towards a utopia is in your own little world. Now, I'm looking. The reason I'm bringing that up is because the first headline I see is a couple is banned by Walmart after wearing Nazi flag face masks at Marshall, Minnesota store. And it was filmed by another woman who they're all yelling. And I went and looked that person up because their profile is on the picture or the video. Rafaela Mueller. And these two idiots are checking out at Walmart wearing face masks that have swastikas on it. Now, blatantly stupid. And if people want to yell at them, I don't like the Karen culture, but whatever. You're dumb enough to wear a Nazi symbol in Walmart, then whatever. If you get yelled at, it is what it is. People saying they should be arrested, or people commenting on the video saying, we're talking about teenage girls saying, if I was there, I would have gone to jail for it, and I would have ripped the mask right off their face. Well, that's assault. And it's also, as upsetting as it is, it's a violation of the First Amendment to take and go and rip that off their face. Now, I always say this about the First Amendment. You may have the right to do something stupid like that, although I do believe that's less of a speech and more of an action. And I don't necessarily believe all the actions that people say are covered by the First Amendment are like burning the flag. That's an action. If they say they don't like the flag, they should just say it. I think burning the flag is a totally different thing. That's like me saying, I don't like that building. I don't like what it stands for. And then people saying, and I blew it up because I don't like it. Well, blowing a building up that you don't own is against the law. Okay. And you're going to go to jail for a long, long time for that. You can say you don't like it. So how is it that the Supreme Court, in all their wisdom, you remember this is a court that also allows forced sterilization. I don't know if you know that. John F. Kennedy's daughter his sister was forcibly sterilized. So in case you didn't realize that. But they also sided with killing babies. So the Supreme Court they're not really that supreme. Okay. But they passed, they define freedom of speech. The founding fathers didn't define it this way. The Supreme Court did, that burning a flag is a form of speech. Well, it's not. If I can't say I don't like that building and I'm not allowed to burn it down, then how can you say I don't like that flag and then take the same action to burn the flag? I don't understand how that's possible. I mean, you can't just go into the city. I mean, there's several different ways you can look at it. You can't just go into public area and take a bunch of your clothes, set them down and light them on fire. You're going to get possibly arrested for arson. Maybe not arson, but definitely, I don't know, lighting a fire in public. I don't know what the charge would be, but maybe if you're a cop on the street right now, you can tell me what that would be. But you can't just go light fires in public. That's one thing. Secondly, the flag has laws in how you're supposed to wear it, how you're supposed to display it, how you're supposed to carry it. There's actual laws in the book. I mean, if we just enforce those laws, it would slap in the face of the Supreme Court decision. And thirdly, have some damn respect for your country, Supreme Court. Well, that's not the way that the founding fathers, bullcrap. The founding fathers would never have approved of that. So anyway, you want to violate the First Amendment, or you want to not violate it. You want to use the First Amendment and go out and say something. You can say it, but it's not going to prevent you from getting punched in the face. And I think the same thing about this swastika. You could wear it if you want, but it does not going to protect you from the ramification of the hatred that's going to be spewed upon you. And that's what happened here. But as it turns out, the people that were, and this is what's not mentioned in this story, I had to do a little bit of digging, but they say that they're actually liberals and that they were doing this in protest of the forced masks, where they passed the law in this state of Minnesota saying that everybody had to wear a mask if you're out. Okay. So they want to protest against that and saying that socialism is fascism. And that's why they wore it. Well, I mean, they're not geniuses, that's for sure. But I looked at even more disturbing from my investigative mind got going there is when I looked up Rafaela Mueller's page, the woman who posted the video. She's a big lefty. So I can't listen. I'm not somebody who's going to believe everything that I see in the news. I've told you there was a story that was written about me in the New York Post when I came up with an idea to use veterans as nannies because I saw how things were getting really dangerous. And I told them that this was an experiment, that we were experimenting with it. I had one nanny that had volunteered to take, she's a veteran from Miami. She's an incredible woman. And she was going to try it. It turns out, long story short, rich people are so cheap that they won't pay extra for a nanny that would protect their family. They would rather hire somebody, a foreigner from another country that they know nothing really about, and pay less money and have them protect their child. That's honest truth. I had a guy who owns a hedge fund tell me that. He's like, do you know how much money, if we spent, what these people are qualified for to get a good qualified nanny, do you know how much we would be spending on that? And I'm like, dude, first of all, you're rich enough. Secondly, it's your children. I mean, I wouldn't even, I almost left my job once because of my dogs. There's trips that I didn't go on because of my dogs. They both passed away, but, and I treat my dogs that well, but yet you won't spend a little extra money for your children. Anyway, I digress. But when the New York Post reported this story, they totally bastardized it. They said that we had 12 nannies in place, and none of that stuff was anything I ever told. And then they go on to say that I was a part of the elite unit that killed Osama bin Laden. Now, never would I ever say that, okay? Yes, I was a SEAL. I was at SEAL Team 4. But never would I go into an interview saying that I was at SEAL Team 6, because I was never there. But they would report this stuff, right? And that's the way the media is. So when I go investigating this story and looking at, what the people are saying that were wearing these Nazi scarves and the woman who posted it, I can't help but think maybe there's a little bit more to this story. Maybe they knew each other. Maybe this was a planned event, because I noticed in the story, I'm not seeing their names. Nobody's reporting their names. I don't know. Listen, it's just as easy for me to believe that these people did this and set this up. It's just as easy for me to believe that as it is for me just to believe that two people are idiot enough to come through there. Okay. I mean, this day and age, with Jesse Smollett and Bubba Wallace and their freaking hijinks of it's like nooses everywhere. Whenever a news story comes up, news story, I look very closely at that, because the way that these things have been presented, they use that as a way to just get everybody all up in arms. So I don't know if this is real or not, but it's very interesting, because those are the things that popped up about me. Okay. That anybody would be that stupid to wear this out is kind of beyond me, but they did. Okay. Okay. So here's another story that I see. All right. U.S. tops 1,000 coronavirus deaths 4 days in a row as experts urge the country to shut down. All right. They say experts urge the country to shut down. First of all, who are these experts, right? Because so far, everybody that's called themselves experts have been wrong every step of the way when it comes to this virus. So I'm not sure who these experts are, but I'm not listening to anybody when it comes to this anymore. I know the virus is dangerous. I had it. I've seen people die from it. But over half, and I've talked about this extensively, over half the people that died within the first 2 months, and died because COVID positive patients were put into elderly clinics. I've said this on a dozen of these shows. So if you've noticed, the coronavirus rate is skyrocketing, but the deaths are not skyrocketing. Right now we're at 140 something thousand. Okay. That's a lot of people dead. But like I just said, half of those people were killed because of idiot governors, not because the coronavirus. So it's one of two things that's happening here with these tests. Either everybody just about has had it or got it, and there's really nothing to it, or it just doesn't spread like they think it does. And maybe it flares up here, flares up there. I don't know. And it doesn't, but it doesn't sound, it sounds widespread and not as deadly. Anyway, I made my own masks out of bandanas, because I got to have something that's comfortable. I can't just go around, and I got to have something. And look, Dr. Fauci goes and throws a pitch at the baseball game. I think it was at the Washington baseball team, Washington Nationals. He goes out there, throws a terrible pitch to the left. Okay. No surprise, went to the left. But I don't know if anybody realized this. He's wearing a jersey that has 19 on it. Now, maybe he was doing that with a sense of humor, and I have a big sense of humor, but I think that was pretty inappropriate for him to be wearing that, especially when then he goes up in the stands and he's hanging out with people, pulling his mask down. That was bothersome for me. Very bothersome. And again, examples of how things are right now in this country. How people in government say, do as I say, not as I do. You know, that's the one thing about Trump is that people can say all they want about him, about the mask issue where he didn't want to wear a mask. And now, you know, he's told people wear a mask, but he's not mandating it. And there's times when he doesn't wear it. I mean, heaven forbid he gets sick. I don't want the guy to get sick. I mean, we need him. We need him. So anyway, but the mask whole thing is really a dilemma anyway, because the same experts that told you not to wear it are the ones telling you to wear it now. And the same politicians that were telling you in March, go see a movie, they're the ones who are telling you don't leave your house, and if you do, wear a mask. So, and all of them were telling you not to wear gloves at one point. So let's continue with the headlines. U.S. protests, more riots and lawlessness in cities across the nation. It's on foxnews.com. Foxnews.com. Why do I keep saying foxnews.com? Because I didn't find this story on foxnews.com. I found it on the Drudge Report. And that's very interesting to me because Drudge never has Fox on there because Fox is quote unquote conservative. Now, interestingly enough, as I watch Fox on a daily basis, if I turn it on there, which I don't watch it on a daily basis, but if I did, it's gone completely where CNN used to be years ago. Okay. It's gone to the left so far that it's left of center now. And they're reporting, and the guests that they have on there is horrific. They don't have, the majority of people they have on there are not experts in anything. They're just personalities. And they're telling you what the facts are, right? Because probably some young person that works in the Fox News brain room looked that up on Google or called somebody they knew that's a cop, and they told them what they thought, or they just read it on Google or on another news platform, and then that's what they report. So anyway, these protests are happening all over the place. The riots and the lawlessness and the injury to this country has gotten so far out of control that, along with what I was talking about earlier, I mean, we literally have had bombs go off now at police precincts. We've had, I say fireworks shot at the cops. Okay, fireworks. Next time there's a fireworks show, get as close to you as you can and feel the blast from those fireworks. Those are the fireworks that are being set off here. Enough where it could, it could kill you if it hit right. Definitely damage your hearing, your eyesight, and if they sprayed any kind of propellant around there and that thing goes off, it's going to catch you on fire. And there is escalation coming. I can mark my word on this. Okay. Mark my word on this. There's going to be a shooting within this month. And like I said, in August, definitely by the end of August, they will start to shoot at these events, and cops will start to die. That is coming within the next couple of weeks, definitely by the end of August. As I said before, August is where the boiling point is going to hit a speed that we've never seen before, and then that's going to continue until November. We're almost there, and here's what's going to happen. This lawlessness and this destruction is going to become more widespread and more violent, and then we're going to be in a position where people are not prepared to react to it. You're going to have patriots that are going to say, we have to stand up to this. But what, are you going to go down there with 5 guys? Or are you going to go join a militia where they really have never trained at all? You know, these idiots, this NFAC, the people, the guys, it's all black people. They wear all black stuff, and they come out and the guy just makes threats all over the place. And they had accidental discharge and shot 3 other guys this weekend, right? Well, they're idiots. They're not well trained. In fact, when they took a knee after that happened, there's pictures of all of them shoving their barrels of their gun into the ground. That's how stupid they are, okay? terrible. One of the pictures, the guy, the loudmouth narcissist that leads this group, I mean, he's like Black Charles Manson and nobody's getting it that's following him. He's at the bottom of these steps giving a little presser, and dude's standing behind him like 4 steps up with the barrel pointed right at the back of his head. Well, I hate to break it to you, folks, but there's very few militias out there that are trained any better than that. And if you think you're going to get out there and fight a war against these, not those guys, but the organized Antifa people, once they get guns, or once they got them, once they start using them, they're going to be shooting and moving in ways that you are not trained to do. And that's going to be, how are you going to defeat that? When you're going to show up, what's going to happen is you'll show up, they'll put their guns down, they'll magically disappear, and you're going to go to jail. Unless there's 10,000 of you show up. Then nobody's going to do nothing. But that's not happening. And we literally only have a month or so left before this stuff, I'm predicting, goes ballistic. And it's going to go straight through to November. And heaven help us if the president doesn't win in November. Now, here's another headline. RNC, this is really the last headline I'm going to cover, but this is that story that I was telling you about, okay? The RNC tells the Trump campaign to stop using President Reagan to raise money. All right, that's disturbing. The Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute asks Trump and I'm sorry, here I'm saying it wrong. Okay. RNC and Trump, the way the headline was written, it was wrong. Are told to stop using the President Reagan to raise money. That's what they're told. Okay. Now, of course, President Trump comes back at him with a tweet. But here's the real story about this that's not being reported. Okay. The Ronald Reagan Foundation, the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute, tells the RNC and President Trump to stop using Reagan for his campaign. Now, first of all, that's just the stupidest thing I've ever heard, okay? Reagan is the cornerstone of modern day Republican GOP tickets. So it's just stupid that they would say this, and kind of unfathomable, right? That they would say that. I mean, Reagan was, he was like the godfather of the Republican Party. So you're going to tell the GOP, the official GOP, and the candidate that they can't use anything about Ronald Reagan. Well, then I go and I had a feeling, just like those people from Walmart, I had a strange feeling there's something up to this. And I'm going to look more into this, okay? But I start pulling up the board of directors. And the guy who is the chairman, which Trump tweeted about this, okay? Frederick J. Ryan Jr. This guy is the publisher and the CEO of the Washington Post, the leftist Washington Post that Jeff Bezos owns. That guy, who claims to be a Republican, is the head of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute that's telling Trump and the RNC not to use Reagan's likeness. Now, that should just blow your mind. I know there's a lot of rhinos, but this isn't rhino. This is even worse than John McCain far left, or although probably the same thing as John McCain far left. But listen, it gets even better. I mean, there's a whole list of these board members, okay? But let's point out the ones that really stand out. Well, there's old Paul Ryan. Yep, that's right. Paul Ryan, the rhino, the lefty, the guy that you just couldn't figure out when he was Speaker of the House because he really didn't do anything to help conservatives, and he really didn't do anything to help veterans. He certainly didn't do anything to help the President Trump. He was more of a buddy to Obama. Yeah, Paul Ryan is on the board of directors. And you know, Paul Ryan is also on the board of directors for Fox News. Yeah, that's true. Just recently, a couple of years ago, he joined Fox News, and lo and behold, Rupert Murdoch is on the board of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation Institute. Now, I don't know how long he's been on here, but Lachlan Murdoch is also on the board of the Ronald Reagan Presidential Foundation and Institute. Two of the most socialist, leftist people in media that have ruined Fox News when Roger Ailes left. That's why I'm interested. I'm going to have to do some more research to see how long they've been on here. There's a whole other group of people on here that have come out against Trump that are all on this board. But those four really are just shocking to me. Well, they have nothing to do with Reagan. Yet they're running. I mean, Reagan would be, I believe he would fall backwards if he realized that Frederick J. Ryan, I mean, I know Frederick J. Ryan has been in the Republican Party and worked in different administrations or around different administrations. I mean, when you look at a lot of these people who worked, he was from 89 to 95. He served as chief of staff for former President Ronald Reagan. Okay, so he was chief of staff. And a lot of these people like this have worked in and around different people in the Republican Party in the White House. But as we have seen through Trump, right? This is why President Trump is so amazing in not just the person, but the hatred and the reality that he's not a part of this this Republican club or the Democrat club, right? The people that are establishment people have literally flipped out and shown who they really are. And I truly believe that Frederick J. Ryan Jr. is one of those people. It's just that he worked under Reagan. So he didn't, Reagan, as good of a president as he was a part of the GOP, I mean, he was a Republican through and through. And these people are snakes in the grass that serve around people like Reagan. But I can't believe, I wouldn't think that Reagan would be astounded at knowing that this guy is also the head of the Washington Post. That's, I don't know. I mean, I can't imagine that Reagan would be happy about that at all. Now, again, I will make this disclaimer, okay? I've spoken at a lot of Republican dinners and and gone to different places where there's 500 people in the audience. And they're all great people. And I do believe that the Republican Party right now is the only party you can vote for to save this country. But the people that I've met that vote Republican are not in line and step with those who run the GOP at all. I talked to people in McCain's district at an event. There were several hundred people there, and none of them knew how John McCain kept getting elected. But he did. And so when I look at this story, it's shocking. It is really shocking to me that these are the people that are on the board. People that do not stand for what we stand for in this country when it comes to the Constitution and rights and conservatism and constitutionality. And again, if you're liberal, I really don't like the terms conservative and liberal, and I kind of separate the conservative that I am from the political conservative, the way it's been used, and you guys and the way that you think conservatives are. I'm a traditionalist. I believe if it's not broken, don't fix it, and if it needs to be fixed, then we look at the best solution, most effective solution, and we try to figure out how we can solve it without touching the Constitution. That's the way I think. So So it's not a big mystery. And don't think that the way that the media portrays conservatives that we are this evil, judgmental type of people. We're not. In fact, I just don't put myself in these categories. Now, the last story that I want to bring up, I was going to talk about reparations and how that's now on the ticket, but we'll hold that for another show because that's just a dumb and worthless thing that they're trying to push through Congress that is not going to do anything for anybody. It's not going to change anything, just like all these other protests and things that these people do. It doesn't change anything at all. It's not going to change anything. Paying reparations to people. It's like giving a hillbilly a lottery ticket that wins $2 million. It's not going to do anything to change the problems that we have in this country. In fact, it'd probably make them worse, which I've talked about before on this show. Now, here's the last thing I want to talk about, okay? This is incredible. I really want you to listen to this. I'm not even going to tell you what country this is happening in. I'm just going to give you some details, and then I'll inform you on the reality of it, okay? In broad daylight, this is how the story reads. In broad daylight, they watched a thief steal an iced tea and a vandal brazenly attack a motorcycle seat. One woman left her place in line when a stalker crept up and threatened to bite her. With a sigh, a police officer brandished a slingshot, and then they scattered. The group scattered. Less than a minute later, they were back. So this one-time capital of this area has been inundated, not with protesters. You thought I was talking about protesters, right? You thought I was talking about Antifa or the leftists that are out there trying to burn down federal buildings. No, I'm talking about in Thailand. These are monkeys who are basically worshipped over there, and now they're taking over. A lot of it has to do with coronavirus because people aren't out and about, and so the monkeys are just taking over, and they're becoming more and more dangerous. What's interesting is when I read you this next statement and why it's such a problem. It says, in a Buddhist majority culture in which culling monkeys would disturb spiritual sensibilities. That's killing monkeys. I don't know why they got to use the word culling. It's killing monkeys would disturb spiritual sensibilities. Local officials and residents have few options to fend off the gang of monkeys. Besides, in the past, they drew tourists, and without them, the economy might suffer even more. Now, I know we're talking about monkeys here, okay? But you could take monkeys and input leftists, and you could take Thailand and input United States, and it'd be the same story. It'd be the same story, except instead of religion, you input the Constitution. And there's a point in all of this where you have to say, now I don't know about Buddhism, I'm not going to go into that, but definitely with us, what is constitutional and what is not, what is insurrection and what is not. And as soon as you identify what's insurrection, then you stop it. And you stop it by any means possible. Because insurrection, like subversion, once it gets in, right, people mistake it as protest or riots or people that just want, freedom, or they don't want black people being killed by cops. But the reality is, those people that are taking part in this are doing it to overthrow the government. Same thing with subversion, which has been going on for years and years and years. Once you identify those things, you have to get rid of it. You have to get rid of it by any means possible. Yes, that means killing, going to war, arresting people and giving them the death penalty for treason or for insurrection, for trying to overthrow an election, for trying to overthrow the government and a duly elected president. Politicians who allow it to happen, it should all be looked at the same as murder or, an accomplice to murder.
If you're in a car and you knowingly drive somebody to go murder somebody and they get back in the car and you leave and you get out of there, you're an accomplice. If you drive people to go rob a bank, or if you help them plan the bank robbery and they drive themselves, you're an accomplice. You're going to be charged with the same crime that they're charged with, especially if it ends up in murder. And if these people are trying to overthrow the country and overthrow and input a different form of government, despite what liberals may think, and if you're liberal and you're listening to this, you're wrong when you think this, that this is the great thing about this country. If the people want socialism, they can vote it in. No, that is not the way this country works. We are a republic. We have a constitution, and nowhere in that constitution does it say that you can change the form of government on a whim. It doesn't say that you can change the form of government, period. In fact, there's laws on the book against it, but nobody enforces those laws. So when this occurs, certain people go out into these protests and they knowingly go there every night and do the same thing, which is riot, and which is supporting rioters. And those rioters are saying that they want to overthrow, that they want communism. Then that should be considered insurrection, and it should be stopped, period. And the people who were involved with it should be locked up and given the death penalty if they were actively involved in it. And I'm sorry if this offends people, but this is the reality, okay? I'm not worried about offending people anymore. Everybody acts like, well, we're damned if we do, we're damned if we don't. That's not the truth. The fact is, we are damned if we don't, period. If we don't start acting against these people who are night after night destroying this country using fear, intimidation, and violence for political aim, which is the definition of terrorism, if we don't start stopping that now, by the time the election happens, which is 99 more days, this country will have devolved into complete chaos by the end of August, and it will not get better before the election. And heaven help us if Trump doesn't get reelected. I'm Jonathan Gilliam. This is The Experts. The truth has arrived. Peace, and we're out of here. Have a great Monday, everybody.